right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming today to the Top 5 November edition. We are a little off schedule because normally we do this the fourth Wednesday of the month, but with Thanksgiving and then next month also Christmas happening, the dates are a little different. So thank you all for being here today. We're going to focus today on how to really to define that sweet spot customer. We're all up and running, but it's sometimes hard for us. We kind of get shifted a little bit or whiplash from customers telling us what they want us to be. So it's time to kind of step back and take a look and really focus in on that perfect customer for us. So today, Connie Anderson is going to donate her time to us. So we appreciate all our speakers donating their time and being with us. Connie specializes in marketing strategy, leadership, team development, and logistics consulting. With over 3 decades of business, Connie brings a unique perspective to marketing and customer experience. Her background both includes corporate and entrepreneurial experiences, and she served as the CEO of Aspen Logistics. So please welcome Connie today.
Good afternoon. So before we get started, I got to see if I know how to use my little clicky thingy here. Okay, it looks pretty easy. So before we get started, I just wanted to get a feel for the audience. So how many people here are in a sales capacity? Okay. How many people are in marketing? I know, me too. And then the rest of you are in the other category, okay? The one thing that we're going to talk today is about the sweet spot. And I've been in the marketing side of the business for over 30 years, white hair. So it just allows us to really step back, look at our customers, look at our business, and determine how are we going to grow our businesses effectively and efficiently and not ramble around. And a lot of people kind of do that broad base approach, and unfortunately, that doesn't help you. So what we're going to try to do is talk about how better to focus in on growth and finding that ideal customer for you and what we call the sweet spot. So let's see if I do this right. That was a no. Oh, there. Oh, okay. The business I run, I've been in Des Moines now for 2 years. So I came from San Diego 18 years, was born here though. Never thought I'd come back to Iowa, but yet I'm here, 4 seasons, and absolutely love it. So when I moved here, I sold my business and started a new business. So I'm in, my company is Vision DNA. Let's get right into it and talk about the sweet spot. So you have an offering in your business, whether that's a product, whether that's a service, you have an offering that allows you to provide a service, provide that to that ideal customer. On the same side of things, that customer is looking for a very specific offering. So the sweet spot is when those two match. When you have your offerings and the value you bring, your customer, this is what they need, right there is where the sweet spot is. And what you want to do is target that sweet spot. So when you do this, what ends up happening is it gives you clarity in your growth plan. It gives you focus and alignment to your strategy. So traditionally, salespeople would go out and broad base sell to whoever. And some people still do that. But what that doesn't do is provide a very strategic approach to your growth. And so what we're trying to do is bring strategy to the process so that you're very focused and it will improve your growth strategy. So as I talked about, here's your expertise, here's your customer's interest. That middle section, that's what we call the sweet spot. Pretty easy until you try to identify it. Looks so good on a graph, right? I mean, it just looks so easy. Well, that's it, you know. Hope you got something out of this. So what we have to do is there's several different things, and we're going to talk about 5 different steps. There's a lot of detail associated to all of these, but we're going to talk about 5 simple steps that you can do to help you go down the right path. And that first one is creating your customer profile, and that's segmentation. So what you want to do is look at your current customers and who are your best customers. Who is the customer that's using most of your products or most of your services? Who is the one that you really have a partnership with because they share information about their organization, you share information, and it's really, you're an extension of their business. Who are those customers that are most profitable for you? And what do they look like? So do they have similar attributes? Do they have similar purchasing situations? Do you feel that, or do they feel that you've provided them the perfect solution? So those are the customers you want to look at. This is a painful process. This takes a lot of time, a lot of agony, because if I asked each of you to tell me who your ideal customer is, I mean, you'd kind of, well, this guy we do this, and this guy we do this, and oh, you know, and then there's these people. You know, you could have different segments within your business that meet different customer profiles, but you need to understand what that profile is, what that customer segment looks like. And these are the areas that you should really look at to determine what you do best, okay? And how well do you know that ideal customer? So here's where you start talking about, and this is very interesting when you start bringing the millennials into the mix, because now you have millennials that are becoming decision makers, or they will become decision makers in the next 5-10 years. So their profile versus my profile is night and day different, okay? They do everything digitally. I kind of do too, but I'm not as good. I fake it well. But they have, you know, a different lifestyle. They have different backgrounds. They see the world differently than perhaps I do because of the age difference. So what do those decision makers of those customers look like? Are they young people? Are they old people? Are you trying to capture them and through a digital approach, or are we talking this is a handshake and we're talking on the phone? Millennials don't like talking on the phone. So you have to understand who that ideal customer is, because if you don't, you're going to sell something or approach something that doesn't work. And then you're going to wonder why it doesn't work. I used to have a sales force of 10 people that worked for me. And it was interesting. I had one guy, really a good guy, and he really understood the business. But he had a toolbox of sales tools. And this toolbox was all he'd ever use. So if I'm selling to you, I would sell to you the same way as I would sell to you. And I was like, you can't do that. You need to understand who your customer is so you can sell to them. The value you're selling is still the same, but your approach can be completely different. And if you don't understand that, you're not going to make it, okay? So you're not going to grow your business the way you want to. So you have to really understand, who are you selling to, who are you marketing to, so that you can understand if you're touching those customers. So who has a LinkedIn account? Yay! Who's on Facebook? Okay, so when you're on digital, a social media platform, people look at things differently. You're going to like certain things differently than other people are going to like. So if you're using content marketing to get your brand out there, how do you know what you're trying to get out there if you don't know the audience you're reaching? Okay, so you have to really understand and combine those two efforts. Oh, okay, so know your audience. And we touched a little bit about this, but who are your champions? who really like you? Any of your customers. Who are the customers that you could call up and they would give you a reference? Those are your champions. Those are your heroes in your customer profile. And why do they like you? Make sure you understand what value you're providing to those customers, because you want to capitalize on creating that value for the same type of customer, okay? So if you have a certain customer, you're doing a certain thing for them, okay, how can you expand that? How can you expand that to a larger group of customers just like them that are very similar in attributes, similar in business? So you need to look at this and understand who are your heroes and who are your champions. And then what offerings are you using that relate to them? So you might have different things. You might have a customer. I come from the logistics field. That's warehousing and transportation. So if I looked at my candy customers, what I provided for them in logistics was much different than what I would provide to my automotive customer, okay? Completely different. I don't try to sell the same things. The fact that I have really clean, food grade, FDA regulated buildings, tire people don't really care about that. That's not a biggie for them, you know? For food people, absolutely, not for tire people. So you have to make sure the offering that you're providing, even though your building still may be clean and all those things, you don't sell that to them, because they'll be going, oh yeah, it is, great. So tell me more about X, because that's not important to them. So you need to understand what offerings are connecting with that customer segment. And that might be different for different customer profiles. You might have 2 or 3 customer profiles, and that's okay. But what you need to do is make sure your offerings match those profiles, okay? Anyone have any questions so far? If you have questions along the way, interrupt me, because boy, I can just talk and talk and talk and talk. So, and I want it to be as interactive as you want. So please feel free to ask questions along the way. So let's talk about Walmart. Everyone knows Walmart. This is a great example of customer segmentation. They have 3 different segments for groups. One is a value price shopper. They economically don't have the money. They want the pricing. That's what they're looking for. Then there's the brand passionate shopper. Low incomes, but still want a brand name. So they just don't want anything. They still want the brand name. Price sensitive shoppers, upscale or wealthier people who want a good deal. You know, hey, why buy it over here when I can get it at Walmart cheaper? I mean, whether I have the money or not, why would I do that? So they target those 3 different customer segments completely different. They're not going to target the price-sensitive shopper the same way as the value price shopper. They're just not. So that's a perfect example where you can see it's a very opposite end of the spectrum of customers, and yet that's how they do that. And if you look and you watch some of their commercials, you'll see that segmentation. You'll see, oh, they're definitely going after this customer. Oh, this one, they're definitely going after this customer. So those are the things to look for when you're trying to segment your customers. Next one we're going to talk about is offerings to the audience needs. So again, we have to match the offerings to what the audience needs. One big mistake a lot of people do is, hey, I'm really great at this, so I'm going to sell it. But if it doesn't have value, it's kind of a supply and demand thing. If it doesn't have value to a customer, you can be really great at it, but it doesn't mean it piddly squat. So you have to make sure that your offering connects with that customer or connects with that customer segmentation. So you have value in areas that you do your business. What you have to do is whatever that value is, because the name of the game nowadays is value. You know, it's, yeah, customers want price, good price. They want some of these other things, but it's about the value that you're bringing them. Price might be part of that, but you have to bring the value. So you want to decide what your most attractive customer segment is. That could be based on profitability. That could be they buy the most products for me or the most services from me. But you need to determine what your attractive segments are. And then what you're going to want to do is evaluate your company, and I'm going to use the word robustly. What that means is do not have a filter. I think when we are in our own business, whether you own your own business or you work for an organization that has a lot of pride in what they do, sometimes they have the filter on their glasses and they see things only through a certain filter. And you have to really look at what you do well, what you don't do well, and be okay with that. We're not all perfect. We're not all going to provide customers everything they want. That's okay. So many people in a customer service side will start talking to someone, yeah, we can do that, especially salespeople. Yeah, we can do that. And then you go, what the hell? How do I do it? You know, we don't want to do that. We really want to understand what we do well, what we don't do well, improve on the areas that we may need to improve upon, but don't kid yourself. Don't kid yourself into thinking you're something that you are not, because then when you start selling it, it's just not going to happen. So you have to really be very blunt in your approach of how you evaluate your organization. And sometimes having other people involved in that process that allows you to hear an open conversation that allows them to be very truthful to you, allows you to really understand what's working, what's not working. The market always changes too. So what a customer wanted today, it's certainly in my business, I can't imagine it's not in all of your business, what the customer wants today, yeah, that's not what they want tomorrow. And here you are, crap, I just got this down, and now they want this. So you have to be able to be flexible and move with that and determine what offerings bring value at the time. So what you did well 10 years ago, and you think, well, I used to make a lot of money on this. Yeah, that time has passed. Let it go. You know that song, let it go. You have to really evaluate what's important now, what's relevant now, and what do you do well now, okay? SWOT. Who's ever done a SWOT analysis? Okay, for those who don't know what that is, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So when you evaluate your organization, you look at what your strengths are. Make a list. Here's the list. Hopefully your strengths are bigger than your not so strength. But your strengths, your weaknesses, what are the opportunities for my organization? And what are the threats to my, because of competition, maybe? And if you look at each one of those, you really need to look at this very open-ended, because sometimes the opportunities can take you down a path of a new service or a new product or a new offering to your customer that you didn't think about before, but yet you can see how the market is turning, and maybe there's an opportunity to go in a different direction with something you already have by approaching it a different way, or selling it a different way, or coupling it up with other services that gives it a new service. So one of the things you have to do is be open-minded to where this process may take you. Because so many people get so caught up in, I know what we do well, I know what the market is, I know, that they don't know. They miss the whole thing. So this is a real, this can be difficult for a lot of organizations. I I tend to like to challenge. When I owned my business, I challenged the team all the time. How do we do things differently? How do we make it better? Do not get used to the status quo, because you'll be missed. The market will move, and you haven't, and you've missed out. And then once you do that SWOT analysis, focus on those strengths and focus on the opportunities. But focus on your strengths to determine, how can I capitalize on my strengths? How can I sell to my customers those strengths? Now, do those strengths match what they're looking for? Because if those two match, then that's when you're going to start seeing that sweet spot. Okay?
What do you do when you say what they're looking for? How do you determine what they're actually looking for?
So the question is, how do you know what they're actually looking for? How do you help that customer identify that, or help you identify it? Look and see what services they're using. So what services are they using for you? Understand their department. So in my business, because I was in logistics and I did a lot of food, going after a Kellogg's wasn't exactly the best direction for me, because they're global. They're going to go everywhere. They're going to use the big guy, okay? I wasn't a global organization. But I knew my sweet spot was in a company that was under $1 billion. I knew that if they didn't have a large logistics or transportation department, I was a resource to them. So one of the things on the marketing side that's come out really over the last 10, 12 years, I guess, is content marketing. And that's replacing your traditional marketing approaches to the business, because it's digital. You're using social media, you're using other platforms to get to your customer than just your traditional, I printed it, an ad, that kind of stuff. So one of the things with content is you become a resource to your customer. Even if you're not providing a service or a product to them in a particular area, you're educating them. You're becoming a resource to them where they come, when they have a question, they come to you. Even if it's not a service you're providing, because they know you'll know. So look at what they currently do with you. Look at what they do with other people. So if you know, if they're in other markets, using people that are similar to you, or using you in other markets, then what services are they using in those areas? What does their industry talk about on their pain points? What are their challenges? How are they addressing those challenges? If they're not doing it through you, then who are they doing it through? And then you know what? You can always ask them.
I find that the hardest thing is understanding what their needs are.
I used to do customer surveys every other year. And I'd just say, you can keep them anonymous. You don't have to put your name on it if you don't want to. But let me know what I'm doing well, what I'm not doing well. A lot of times, I would do that face-to-face. If they didn't feel comfortable with that, because they might want to tell me something that they didn't feel comfortable telling me, great, put it in, send it. You can send it to my marketing guy. But it was like getting good customer feedback, you just can't beat that. You just can't beat that, because then you take out the guessing game. You're not going, well, I think they like me because of this. The other thing is, ask for a testimonial. If you ask your customer to give you a testimonial, it's amazing what you'll find is the value. And it'll be something that you might not have known. They'll say, oh, well, I can always depend and da-da-da-da-da. And you're like, oh, I thought it because they liked the product. And, so in my business, hey, a lot of people have warehouses and trucks. But what makes me different than everyone else is those intangibles, that I can provide to them, being a resource to them. being trustworthy, dependable. So you got to look and see, does your culture align with that customer's culture? Sometimes they do. Sometimes, I mean, I've given up business because we're just at opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to culture. You know, I'm not into listening to someone cuss at me on the phone and because they're having a bad day. You know, it's like, hey, I get it, but, you know, hey, have a coffee. You know, so, you know, there's times where I step away and I say, you know what, this just isn't a good fit. You know, hey, you need to find someone else. And, you know, you have to understand that too. So there's a lot of elements to understand what they value. But I think asking that and then observing them, you know, watching what they do, what they don't do, what they're using, what they're not using, you know, that'll help you identify those things. Okay? Anyone else want to add to that? Has anyone else come across that where it's helped them identify their customer, what they like through different things?
The whole video personas can come into place.
Persona, right.
Through that segmentation part, right. Then go talk to clusters that kind of fall within that audience type and ask them what keeps them awake at night, what are their challenges with their market right now, and
Right.
kind of package it up.
Right. So I'm calling it
Customer profiles because I didn't want to confuse everyone, but a persona is the same as a customer profile. And I worked with consulted with a global logistics company, and they had companies in Indonesia and Thailand and a lot of Asian countries. And so we actually named the personas. So it was Terry Thailand. And, you know, I mean, we just so we could go, okay, their customer looks like this, which is very different, you know, than in Singapore or in Netherlands or, you know, so we kind of, Nelly Netherlands, you know, I mean, we created just little names because it was easier to remember them. So, and we had little avatars because why not? And, you know, so, I mean, you know, there's a lot of things you can do because what you want to do, it's not just your group that needs to understand these customer profiles. This is a strategy for the organization. So when your salespeople are selling, they need to understand it. When your marketing people are marketing to the industry, they need to understand it. When you're developing products or services, they need to understand it. The people who operate your organization on the operational side, they need to understand it when it comes to customer service. So this is not something that, oh, the sales and marketing people, you know, they do this and the rest of us do this. No, this is a strategy that everyone does and everyone embraces, and that's how you grow your business. Because otherwise, you know, you're all doing a couple other little things, okay? Okay, target the sweet spot. So we talked about developing solutions. So if you know what you do really well, and you know what customers really like that you do really well, how can you develop a solution or a service or an offering or whatever your business is that fits that need? Okay? So how many times have you had an opportunity come to you just out of the blue? It doesn't completely fit what you currently do. You know you could do it, but it's not something you're doing or you were planning on doing. It just kind of, it's an opportunity. We call it an opportunistic situation where it just kind of lands on your lap and you're like, well, it's kind of big. I mean, maybe I should do it. And how many times has that happened? And then we try to develop the solution after the fact. Okay, so yeah, you know what? I know we do it this way, but we could, you know, change it, do it this way. That's not a bad thing to do if it's a marketable thing that you want to grow your business on. Because sometimes those opportunities come up. But if it's just one of those off the beat, off strategy things, don't do it. And that's hard, especially for salespeople. who want to win no matter what. They want to win, and they want to be able to say, yes, I signed it. Yes, I have the contract signed. Woo-hoo! Yeah, and then the rest of the organization goes, oh, crap. How are we going to get this done? Okay? So, you have to sometimes sit on your salespeople, and make sure that they don't do that. But you want to find solutions or things that you do well, that fit the customers, and that are better than your competitors. So like I told you in my business, we all have warehouse buildings. So how do I make my building or my business be better than the competition? Okay? That's what you have to look at when you start doing your products and services. What can you do? Sometimes it's just something very simple that makes yours better than theirs, different than theirs. So, in my business, people drop orders down until 12 o'clock noon, and they expect them to ship the same day. What if I said, you can drop them down all day long, and I'll still ship them the same day? Okay? That's a way that makes me different than what everyone else is doing. So those are the things that you have to think. Don't get me wrong, some of those might be challenges to do. You have to look at your processes. How can we do that without killing all of us or, killing each other? But what can you do that you can re-engineer what you're doing and make it better than the competition? But that's also making sure you understand your competition. Because if you don't know what they're doing, it's hard for you to do something better than them. The other thing to look at through this whole targeting process is, who were your lost customers? What business did you lose and why? And don't take it personal. Really understand, I didn't provide this to them. Or, because all of us, we all are able to rationalize everything. Well, they were such idiots. If they only knew how the business should really work, we've all gone through that where, we rationalize and justify losing a customer. But you know what? There's a reason. And it might be a good reason, and it might be a bad reason, but you need to understand that reasoning so you can then say, okay, is this something that it just wasn't a good fit, or is this something we could have done better for this customer? And if this customer didn't like it and left, who else doesn't like this that we don't know about? Okay? So it's, and everyone knows that it's easier to retain business than get new business. So really make sure, as part of this whole process, you understand these customers. So use your customer profiles in all aspects of your business: sales, marketing, production, every aspect. This is not just about the sales and marketing people. And it tends to be that way, where your CEO says, oh, great job, but he doesn't live and eat and breathe it. And if it's not being taken care of at the top, coming downward, it's not going to happen. It's got to be a buy-in from all aspects of the business. So let's stay focused on what we want to do and away from the off-strategy stuff. So, and this is probably, if you have a sales force that hasn't been reined in, so to speak, sorry for you salespeople. I used to sell, so I get it. But sometimes, if you let them do whatever they want to do, and now you say, yeah, now we're going to stay inside this box, that can be difficult. But what ends up happening is you end up spending a lot of time and effort on areas that you shouldn't, because you're not staying on your strategy. Okay, so what you have to do is make sure that you stay on your strategy. Oh, yes, that wasn't good. Okay. Thank you. So we don't want to spend too much effort, wasted energy, time, and resources. And we can easily do that if we don't stay focused. So keep investing in the sweet spot. Sometimes it takes a while, you know. If you, depending on your sales pipeline and sales cycle, you know, things don't, you can't build Rome in a day. Yeah, I know you want to, but you can't. So give it time to solidify and work through the organization. But keep investing in what you've decided. Not saying that you shouldn't tweak it along the way, but don't just abandon and just sell. So you need to make sure you're doing that. Opportunistic situations will come up. It's not saying you shouldn't take them. Evaluate them as a team. Does this bring us value long term? Sometimes financially we have to take them because we need the revenue. I get it. But that can be done with the intent that as we grow the business, they may have to go someday because this is not our sweet spot, okay? So make sure you understand that and go forward with that. Allocate the resources carefully. You know, all of us are doing more with less. That's kind of the way of the world now in corporations. So how do you make sure that the allocation of your resources are efficient and they're working on the things that are going to bring you gain? And that's growth. So don't get caught up in the rabbit holes, as I like to call them. You know, we all have lots of rabbit holes. Don't get caught up in the rabbit holes. Be honest with the team. Include them in the evaluation of the opportunity. So, you know, salespeople will bring things to your teams. Instead of just poo-pooing them, which it's easy to do, no, that's not what we do. You know what? Help them, allow them to be a part of that evaluation so they understand why you are or are not taking them. Let them have a voice. That's not a bad thing because they won't sell those things again if they feel they've been part of that process and have an understanding of why you are or are not taking it, okay? Be open to new market opportunities where your sweet spot can be expanded. So like when we talked about the SWOT analysis and those opportunities, don't shut those down. Investigate that. You know, where does that take me? Is that a new area in the market that I could go into that would really grow the business in a different angle? Sometimes we like to grow with our current customers, but if we're only providing these things in the box, you can only do so much. But if we expand that box and that box got a little larger, those customers, there might be additional opportunities to sell to them in different areas. So be open to where this process might take you and allow it to, you know, germinate and see if there's some other things that you can be doing that you might not be doing. So, and you know what? You can try them. If they work, woohoo, you know, you have a win. If they don't work, okay. They don't work, scrap it, move on. So it's not, you don't have to stay inside the box, okay? The box has kind of some openings here and there. Just, you know, investigate that. And that's pretty much everything from my side. Now let's have some questions. Do people have any questions, specific things that we can talk to? Or I'll have some questions of you guys. Yeah.
Biographical information about yourself. You talk about logistics. What is that? What do you do?
Okay, so for logistics, he asked what my background was and kind of my bio on my background. Logistics in my world is, it's called third-party logistics. So it's when a manufacturer outsources services to someone like me who provides their inventory. We keep their inventories in our buildings. We ship those orders. They provide us orders to their customers. We ship those, prepare those orders, ship those orders directly to their customers, which may be a merchandiser, which may be a distributor, which may be the end user, consumer, I did a lot of business so I had over 2 million square feet of warehouse space. Half of that, more than half of that was refrigerated space because I did a lot of confectionery. So Hershey, Mars, every candy company you can think of, I had. I don't take ownership of the product, but I'm their logistics arm. So instead of them having buildings, so now they can keep their plants and their factories just for manufacturing, not having to warehouse their products. I keep track of that. I keep the inventories. I cycle count the product to make sure we're not short on product. I take all the orders, I take returns,
all that aspect. If there's a recall, especially when you get into food products, if there's a recall of pet food, we've all seen that one, then I have the systems in my warehouse that would allow me to tell them where that lot, every single customer that it shipped to, what days, where, how many cases, how many pieces, all that kind of good stuff. So I was really the manufacturing customer, I was the middleman for that. I've been in that business for over 30 years. As working in it in the marketing and sales side, also in an operational role, and then owned my business, which was a family business, had been in in our family for 30 years, and just probably, I think, 5 years ago sold it. So my 3 boys, I have 3 boys, did not want to get into the business, so it was one of those, okay, I guess it's time. So that's pretty much what we did. We were really very integrated with customers. So with Mars, we would go visit their customers with them, you know, because we were the ones shipping. I had trucks also, so I shipped all throughout the Western region. So, yes.
Vision DNA, oh, that's so different. No.
You know what, when I sold the business, I was like, well, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I trained as an executive coach and did a whole bunch of leadership stuff. And then, you know, kind of this logistics stuff, supply chain gets in your blood. It's kind of a sick thing, but it's true. And I'm really I'm doing marketing services, a lot of marketing services, operational consulting, things like that, a lot back in the logistics side. Even though I have customers that are not logistics, I tend to, you know, because I've been in it 30 years. I know everyone, you know. So, and then, of course, moving to Des Moines a couple years ago, you know, it's not, I don't know anyone, you know. So a lot of my business contacts are outside of the Des Moines area. So, but now you are all my new best friends. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So, other questions?
Hey, Connie, how often do you recommend that they revisit kind of the sweet spot customer? Like going into the holidays, I know some people say, well, during the holidays, our customers are completely different than they are the rest of the year. How often do you recommend they kind of revisit all of this?
So I guess I would, depending on the business, I don't know if the customer is different, the buying patterns are different during the holiday season. So if you're in a retail thing, so you have your seasonal peaks and valleys, so to speak. You know, in the candy world, Halloween. You know, all hell breaks loose in Halloween. Retail, it's Christmas, you know. I think you should reevaluate your strategy yearly just to see, does it still make sense? Are we still on plan? Are we still going the direction we need to go? In that process of strategy review, you should be looking at this customer profile again, because there are times where you've expanded your offerings and you might have a new customer segment. Or you can say, hey, this customer expanded services with us right here. I wonder if these guys would too. Have we contacted them to try to sell them this service? No, we haven't. Well, why not? It just seems so obvious. So you need to be evaluating that at least annually. That gives you enough time to kind of see what's working, what's not working. And did you have a question?
What do you find the best mode right now? Print, direct mail, email, social media?
Yeah.
Boy, that's like, let me just throw it up in the air and see what lands today. It's a digital. There's no question it's digital. So digital being, I use a lot of email campaigns combined with social media. So it's kind of a multi-layered digital approach. So you're always driving, for content, you're trying to drive people back to your website. So, you know, you can use social media to drive that back to your website. You can use email campaigns that drive that back to your website. So you have, your website should be kind of your storage place. So any brochures, anything that you want out there, not only the web pages, but you can put PDFs, things like that on your website, and you want to drive those people, anyone you tweak their interest, you want to drive them back to your website. So everything really is digital. I find that print is even going digital. I mean, the magazines that I used to get, now I get them via email. So, you know, everything's really the digital side. And you can do that with even your advertising. I do banner ads, you know, Google ads, there's AdWords. It's kind of crazy trying to keep track of it all. And I know enough to be dangerous, and then I use resources that are experts in those areas on some of that stuff. So
So do you use that thing where if somebody looks at your stuff, that it haunts them on their computer?
Yeah. Well,
Do you find annoy people and drive them away, or does it work?
I don't think, truthfully, I think
it does work a little bit. It can annoy them. I mean, the ads, I hate the pop-up crap. I mean, I'm like, get rid of it, get rid of it. But the fact that now I go onto Facebook and I was just on Macy's and that shirt that I looked at just kind of popped up. I kind of go, that's kind of cool. Let's see, should I buy it or not? You know, so I don't get all caught up in it. I just get rid of the noise that I don't want to deal with. But yeah, I haven't used a lot of that, but I have used it, yeah, with some of my customers. A lot of times you can use that, the retargeting kind of tool to start off a website when they're first starting into content. And then once they have content created where you can drive stuff to their website based on their actual content, then I start taking that ad stuff down. So I don't use it as much then.
I think we have time for one more question. Any more questions?
Okay.
I know you haven't been living in the Des Moines area for too long, but do you still use any networking avenues or here to get more business, or did you feel like you had more experience in that North California area, or what?
yes. So I
have a lot of, my network is national. I mean, I have a lot of contacts nationally. I'm done Urbandale Chamber of Commerce I've gotten involved in. Some of the organizations aren't here that I was a part of. I'm still part of a lot of trade organizations, but this is one of the reasons I got involved in this organization, just to kind of connect with people. And I have actually contacted logistics people who are domiciled here in the Des Moines area, and just said, hey, I know you don't know me, but you know, LinkedIn is a beautiful thing. You know, I kind of go, logistics, transportation, warehousing, Des Moines, you know, and look at all these people. And then I've had coffee with them just because, you know, you kind of get a little burnout in an industry that you've been in a long time. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do something different. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not so burned out anymore. Maybe not, you know. So I've reconnected with people in that industry too. So I'm kind of spreading it out. If there's other ones, let me know.
Let's thank Connie for donating her time today to be here with
Thanks.
us. I'm going to actually have Meg Schneider come up and talk. We actually have something coming that is going to help you once you identify your sweet spot customer on how the partnership here can help you find more of those sweet spot customers. And as members of the partnership in your chambers, you have access to all this exciting stuff coming.
Thank you, and thanks for carving out some time today to be a part of this. So we are working on a pilot program to help you find more of that sweet spot customer. And it's access to a database. So the comparison about shopping online and then all of a sudden your feed is populated with all of these shirts that you happen to be looking at. Well, that's just today's reality, is that everything we look at or click on is measured. The benefit of that is that it makes it that much easier to really hone in on your sweet spot customer and to find more of that customer because everything is measured. So we are looking for 2 or 3, maybe 4 of you. If you have started some of that due diligence on finding your sweet spot customer, so if you have some key demographic information, or maybe you're tracking zip codes, or maybe you have a mailing list, which would be gold because we could actually type in their addresses and really, in a sense, clone them and find more of them. So looking for a few of you that have some of that already started so that we can kind of test the waters and how we deliver this to members officially in 2018, but you would be helping us build this as a pilot project and would get some of, I guess, all of these services for free. Also looking for someone that maybe is interested in testing some of that marketing once we have kind of cloned your customer base. So Connie did a great job of explaining the different personas, and it is pretty wild how you can really segment almost down to the minutia if you'd like, so thinking of if they're texting teens, or I would be a minivans and Merlot demographic, and we all look for different things and we buy different things and we want to be talked to in different ways, so you can really get in there and drill down, but it's the concept that we're looking at. I'll leave my card up here if you're interested. I would appreciate you letting me know, and just know that we're kind of building the runway and you're on the plane that's helping it take off. So we're going to learn as we go, but I really think there's going to be a lot of value in what we can have come out of this. So thanks for your time and thanks for being here today. Turn it back to Christina.
So just to wrap up really quickly, there is some surveys on your tables. If you can fill those out, it helps us make better programming for you. The big thing is we would like to know what you want to learn more about in 2018 as we continue to build this program out monthly for you. If you can leave us some suggestions, that would be really helpful. We do have an event coming up this Friday. It's called our First Friday series that we team with the Women's Business Center on. It's going to be hosted here. It's Beth Montepas will talk about her female entrepreneurship journey. It's here. Feel free to bring your lunch that day. It is open. The event's open to the public. There's a wonderful food court downstairs where you can support a lot of local businesses. So grab lunch, come up and join us on Friday. If you can't join us, it's also offered via simulcast, just like today. So if you can't make it down here, you can watch from your computer. And then our next top 5, we're going to turn around and have very quickly. It's on December 13th. It's leveraging your team's strengths. So top 5 ways to leverage your team's strengths. So especially if you have a large team or a small team, you're looking at building a team, maybe your partners in business, it will be a really good presentation to be at. Jason Keesaw with Ariane is coming in to teach that for us. So those are the things coming up before the holidays. And again, thank you for joining us today. This recording will be online within the next probably week. So if you want to go back and rewatch it or grab any of the information on that, feel free. Thanks, everybody.